Bolen here, and it is time to preview and predict this weekend's Hungarian Grand Prix that is anyone's for the taking, considering we've now had 5 different race winners in the past 7 Grand Prix, which is mind-blowing. Before I get into my predictions, let's get to know this race a little bit better. The Formula 1 Hungarian Grand Prix takes place this weekend at the Hungaroring in Magyarország, Pest County, Hungary, Europe, Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe. The race weekend starts this Friday, July 19th, which will consist of free practices 1 and 2. Saturday, July 20th, will consist of free practice 3 and qualifying, and Sunday, July 21st, will consist of the Grand Prix. There is a lot to say about the Formula 1 Hungarian Grand Prix. First and foremost, there's the fact that its circuit easily has the most on-the-nose name of any F1 circuit. The Hungarian Grand Prix is run on the Hungaroring. I like to imagine that the circuit owners paid some branding agency like millions of dollars to come up with that absolute cop-out of a name, and then they just had to run with it just because they already spent so much money on it. Second, the Hungarian Grand Prix has a rather insulting nickname, with that nickname being Monaco without walls. This nickname came about because the Hungaroring is extremely similar to the Circuit de Monaco in terms of a number of things, including its low grip, how low speed and high downforce it is given its proportion of corners to straights, and how narrow its track surface is, all of which lead to the Hungaroring not featuring very much overtaking, just like, you guessed it, Monaco. If you're going to be compared to one circuit, that's pretty much worst case scenario. It'd be like if you called me the Nikita Mazepin of F1 content creators. Please don't call me that. Fortunately for all of us, the Hungaroring, while being similar to Monaco, is not Monaco, so don't fret, as there will definitely be some overtakes this weekend. Third, the Hungarian Grand Prix is famous for being the most affordable European Formula 1 race to attend, and the second most affordable F1 race on the entire calendar to attend. Major shout out to the Hungarian Grand Prix race organizers for that, because holy crap, F1 races are getting way too expensive these days for the average fan to be able to afford attending one race, which is not good for the sport, obviously. I really hope that more Grand Prix follow their lead there. And finally, the Hungarian Grand Prix is famous for having easily the coolest trophies in all of Formula 1. All podium finishers and the winning constructor each receive a hand-sculpted, hand-painted Hungarian porcelain trophy that took over 6 months to craft and is worth over $40,000. That is, until Lando Norris shatters it. To give you a more historical perspective, here are 2 noteworthy events in the Hungarian Grand Prix history. First, one of the worst bad luck moments in F1 history happened at the 2009 Hungarian Grand Prix. During qualifying, a 700-gram or 1.5-pound metal spring from the rear suspension damper of Brazilian Bronze GP driver Rubens Barrichello's car came loose, detached itself, and started bouncing on the track surface behind Barrichello. As the worst kind of fate would have it, the Ferrari of fellow Brazilian driver Felipe Massa, a very close friend of Barrichello, was near full speed when the spring bounced perfectly upwards and made contact with his helmet just above Massa's left eye. The impact immediately knocked Massa unconscious and turned him into a passenger in his own car, which went straight on into a barrier with Massa's foot still on the throttle as he remained unconscious through the collision. Massa would get airlifted from the Hungaroring and undergo emergency surgery for a skull fracture before being put into a medically induced coma for 2 full days. He then stayed in the hospital for 5 more days before being discharged. So severe were Massa's injuries that he would sit out the rest of the 2009 season recovering before making his return to F1 in 2010. Oh yeah, and remember how I said Barrichello and Massa were very close friends? Well, Barrichello would go on to win the following Grand Prix, the 2009 European Grand Prix, and emotionally dedicate the victory to Massa as he began his recovery. Now, your second piece of Hungarian Grand Prix history is a lot less terrifying. The only Hungarian driver in the history of Formula 1 was Zsolt Baumgartner, who awesomely got to make his Formula 1 debut in 2003 at none other than his home race, the 2003 Hungarian Grand Prix. Unfortunately, and in super anticlimactic fashion, Baumgartner would qualify second to last, and then retire from the 70-lap race less than halfway through it due to a power unit issue. However, Baumgartner would go on the following season to score the nation of Hungary its first ever and, to this day, only ever Formula 1 World Championship points, or should I say point, by finishing in the final points position at the 2004 United States Grand Prix. Hilariously enough, there were so many retirements in that race that Baumgartner was actually the final driver to cross the finish line, yet still managed to finish in the points. Regardless of those circumstances, that is still an incredible accomplishment, as less than half of the drivers in F1 history have ever scored a single World Championship point in their career. It's not how you score the point, it's that you score the point, so shout out to Zoltan Baumgartner. I have to tell you about this game-changing product that I use before a night out with drinks. It's called ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. Pre-Alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. So I first gave pre-alcohol a try this past 4th of July weekend. I drank it before my first domestic macro brew, and you would not believe how on top of my game I felt on the 5th of July. Vacations, weddings, birthdays, and reunions, there's so much going on. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on pre-alcohol now. Go to zbiotics.com/fbone to get 15% off your first order when you use fbone at checkout. Pre-alcohol is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/fbone and use the code fbone at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. Now, here are my 3 bona fide race predictions for the 2024 F1 Hungarian Grand Prix that I am about to go 3 for 3 on, or my name isn't J-Bone. I'm currently sitting at 19 for 37 for the season thus far with my predictions, which is super average, but that's fine, because I'm literally about to improve that hit percentage right now. My first Hungarian Grand Prix race prediction is that Max Verstappen will win the Hungarian Grand Prix. Don't come at me and say I'm not allowed to predict this, okay? Because Max just lost the last 2 races, so it is definitely fair game to once again predict Max Verstappen wins. Am I worried about McLaren and Mercedes? Of course. McLaren still have the fastest car on the grid at the moment and could have won the past 4 races if they didn't make mistakes both in the car and on the pit wall. And Mercedes, well, they're the most on-the-rise team in Formula 1 right now, who continue to get better with every race. And oh yeah, Mercedes are also bringing an upgrade package to the Hungaroring this weekend that, if it's anything like their other upgrades, is going to be crazy. Now, I should note that Red Bull are also bringing an upgrade package of their own this weekend that they are hoping will propel their car back to the front of the grid. But that, folks, is not why I'm confident that Max wins the Hungarian Grand Prix this weekend. No, my confidence comes from what Max pulled off at the Hungaroring last season, where he won the race over 33 seconds. That's a very Max Verstappen number, ahead of P2, which holds the record as the most dominant race win of this current F1 regulations era. McLaren and Mercedes look legit right now, but I just do not see a world in which they've made up that much Hungaroring ground to Red Bull season to season. My second Hungarian Grand Prix race prediction is that there will not be 3 different constructors on the Hungarian Grand Prix podium. The past 4 Grand Prix podiums in a row have all featured 3 different constructors on them in a true show of just how even Formula 1 is right now across its top 4 teams, Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari. However, the Hungaroring is such a unique circuit on the F1 calendar with its lack of overtaking opportunities and high downforce that I think that one of those 4 teams will get it more right than the other 3 and have 2 of their drivers on that podium. If you ask me, I think it'll be McLaren with the double podium because track temperatures are going to be incredibly hot in Hungary this weekend, and the McLaren car seems to be able to manage its tires the best of the top 4 teams, as evidenced by Lando and Oscar's cars coming alive relative to the field in the second half of their tire stints. My third Hungarian Grand Prix race prediction is that Nico Hülkenberg will finish out of the points at the Hungaroring. All right, look, folks. Look, I do not want this to happen any more than you do, but sadly, it is what I predict will happen. Yes, I predict that Haas's Nico Hülkenberg, who just shockingly finished P6 in back-to-back Grand Prix, will not finish in the points in Hungary. The Haas car seems to perform better at medium to low downforce circuits than high downforce ones, and the Hungaroring is one of the highest downforce circuits on the calendar. Because of this, I think the Alpines and RBs will have the upper hand on Haas in Hungary, thus knocking Nico out of the top 10 and out of the points after back-to-back show-stopping performances at the last 2 races. Now this one right here is kind of a win-win for me, because if I'm right, I'm right and my prediction is right. And if I'm wrong, then Nico finishing the points, which is what I want to happen. So, hey, not too bad. Going off all that, here's my prediction for the top 5 finishers in the Hungarian Grand Prix with zero reasoning nor explanation. P5, George Russell. P4, Lewis Hamilton. P3, Oscar Piastri. P2, Lando Norris. And P1, Max Verstappen. Next up, here are some additional storylines to follow for this weekend's 2024 Hungarian Grand Prix and how I predict they'll play out. First, Mercedes F1 team are officially back, but just how back are they? Mercedes are currently in the process of enacting one of the craziest F1 team midseason turnarounds I've ever seen. The Silver Arrows didn't have a single podium finish to their name across both of their drivers until the 9th race of the season. They then got their second podium of the season the following race, and then they won the next 2 races in a row. Sure, they got some help from McLaren on the way to both of their wins, but they still won nonetheless, okay? Mercedes are clearly back, as you can't win 2 races in a row without being back. But going off that McLaren point, it's actually kind of hard for us to judge just how back Mercedes are, considering the circumstances of the last 2 races. Mercedes very clearly have found a bunch of time thus far this season thanks to car upgrades and setup development, and they're also clearly continuing to find time as they've gotten closer to the front with each passing race ever since that first podium. But are they as fast as or faster than Red Bull and McLaren right now? My thought is that Mercedes are still closing in on Red Bull, and they're even a little bit further than that behind McLaren. But with how they're developing their car right now and how McLaren keep messing up, I just would not be surprised to see this Mercedes win streak continue in Hungary to make it 3 in a row, especially considering they were on pole there the last 2 seasons in a row. They might make it 3 in a row. Next, will Red Bull driver Checo Perez finally start turning things around at this weekend's Hungarian Grand Prix? Unlike the rut that Charles Leclerc currently finds himself in, that's largely Ferrari's fault, Red Bull racing driver Checo Perez only has himself to blame for his current run of absolutely awful form. While his teammate Max Verstappen has a commanding lead in the World Drivers' Championship, Checo is inexplicably struggling to qualify in the top 15 at Grand Prix weekends right now, before then not being able to manage finishing in the top 5. Ironically, all of this is happening not only immediately after Checo received a contract extension that's almost certain to be yoinked away from him here soon, but also smack dab in the middle of the ad campaign for a documentary about Checo's rise to F1 success that comes out in 2 weeks on Disney+. You just can't make this stuff up. All this is probably not great for viewership numbers on that documentary. There are pretty much 2 outcomes here. Checo turns things around ASAP and keeps his seat, or he doesn't turn things around ASAP and loses his seat. That being said, do I think Checo turns things around starting this weekend in Hungary? I do not. Seeing as last season in Hungary, he finished the Hungarian Grand Prix an insane 37 seconds behind his teammate Max Verstappen, indicating to me that this is not a confident circuit for him at which he can easily begin mounting his comeback. I actually think that circuit would be Spa next weekend for Checo, but I'm not sure he'll make it that far. After what I've seen from Checo these past couple months, I predict that Checo will be out of his Red Bull seat before the end of the season to be replaced by either Yuki Tsunoda or Liam Lawson. Let me know your thoughts on that prediction in the comments. Go comment right now. I would love to hear what you have to say. Shout out to my sponsor, Indeed, which is the best hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one convenient place. Whether you're hiring or looking for a job, Indeed is truly the place to go. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed is a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. I love how Indeed just makes hiring all in one place so easy because their hiring platform matches you with quality candidates literally instantly, like right when you set up your listing. Indeed is truly an unbelievably powerful hiring platform, and that is why it's the #1 source of hires in the US according to Talent Nest. So what are you waiting for, folks? Whether you're hiring for a job or searching for one, you need Indeed. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/FBone. Offer good for a limited time, so act fast. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/FBone. Just go to Indeed.com/FBone. It's right there behind my head. And support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/FBone. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. You need Indeed. Finally, we need to talk about what's going on with Formula One's worst team. No team has finished a Formula One season without scoring a single point since 2021, which was the season where Haas literally did not upgrade their car at all from the previous season to save money and resources, in what was easily the funniest thing former Haas team principal Gunther Steiner ever did, and that is saying something. However, we're now halfway through the 2024 F1 season, and Stake F1 team Kick Sauber still remain not just scoreless, but hopeless. After Zhou Guanyu finished just out of the points in P11 at the first race of the season in Bahrain, neither driver for Stake has finished higher than P13. And it's not just a race pace issue. Combined, both Stake drivers have only made it out of Q1 in qualifying 6 times through 24 attempts. This indicates to me that this car just stinks. Aside from their average pit stop time coming down from like 45 seconds to a normal length of time over the course of this season, there's been no real visible progress from Sauber, which actually isn't super surprising if you think about it. After all, Stake F1 team Kick Sauber, it's such a long name, is only going to be around for one more season after this one before they turn into the Works Audi F1 team, so in a way, we really shouldn't be surprised that a lame duck team isn't motivated to spend a bunch of money and resources on improvement when they won't be around for that much longer. Still though, you gotta imagine that a brand like Audi does not want to be entering Formula One by taking over the worst team on the grid, so you think there'd be like some incentive for this team to try and score 1 point so as not to go down as one of the worst teams to ever do it? Personally, though, I predict that Sauber will finish the season without a single point, as I just can't see them developing their car like they'll need to get back in the mix, and then managing to string together a good qualifying and a good race, given what we've seen from them thus far this year where they've been stinking it up. Do you think Sauber will score at least 1 point before the end of the season? Let me, J-Bone, know in the comments. Come on, go comment, do it. If you're enjoying Formula Bone and want to play a direct role in helping me grow the brand, you can do me a massive favor by retweeting my pinned tweet promoting this episode on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, or by sharing my Instagram post promoting this episode to your story on Instagram, or both. Doing so would truly be helping Formula Bone out a ton as I try to grow the brand more, so thank you so much for your consideration. Special shout out to my top YouTube channel members, Joe Max and the More Hater Snow, Brian Linton, Wolfslows Racing, Wavalophagus, and David Hake. Mash that join button just below this video to get your name shouted out right here in future videos. I'll see you back here next week for my combination Hungarian Grand Prix recap and Belgian Grand Prix prediction episode. And until then, folks, J-Bomb! J-Bomb!